If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. May 16, 2024. We do not have those before us. We'll defer those to a later meeting. We do have the July 18th, 2024 meetings to consider. The minutes for that date, do we have any comments or revisions? Anything, Phil?
No.
No? No? Not going to have a motion then to approve the minutes as prepared.
I'll place a motion.
Diana, second by?
A second.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next item on the agenda is the possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. First one being Petro and Prey 316 Route 207. We have a letter here from environmental, Engineering and Surveying Properties, dated July 11, 2024. Dear Planning Board, Engineering and Surveying Properties PC, as the professional representative of the applicant for the project noted above, has been working to resolve the conditions of subdivision and site plan approval that will expire on August 15th, 2024. We are actively finalizing all items related to the conditions of approval at this time and are hereby requesting a 6-month extension of the subdivision and site plan approvals associated with the Petro and Prey project at 3316 Route 207. If you have any additional questions or comments, please do not hesitate to contact this office. Sincerely, J. Samuelson, Engineering and Surveying Properties. Sean.
The only thing I have to add, Mr. Chairman, is I believe they were working on their well. I noticed that they cut a road into the property, so I think that was to drill and test the well.
Comments from the board? Kelly, what would the extension bring us to? 6-month extension?
February 20th, 2025.
Could I have a motion then to grant the 6-month extension to February 20th, 2025 for the Petro and Prey subdivision and site plan approvals to expire August 15th?
So moved.
Seamus, second by?
I'll second.
Diana, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next one would be Young's Grove, otherwise known as Rieger. Again, a letter from Engineering and Surveying Properties addressed to the Planning Board dated July 22nd, 2024. With this letter, we're requesting a spot on the August 24 Planning Board agenda to request 2 90-day extensions of the conditional preliminary major subdivision approval for the reference project. The conditional preliminary approval is scheduled to expire on or about August 15, 2024. We have attached a summary of activities that have occurred in the past several months in an effort to complete the conditions of preliminary approval. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Signed, Steve Esposito, Engineering and Surveying Properties. Status update number 20, dated July 22nd, 2024. The applicant is requesting 2 90-day extensions of its conditional preliminary major subdivision approval. Since approval, the following items have been completed. Based on the current test results, we're finalizing the design of the water filtration system for submission to the regulatory agencies. We'll copy the town on all submissions. Updating the proposed pump station and force main plans for resubmission to the New York State DEC, and we'll copy the town on submission. The applicant is continuing a dialogue with the town board and village board regarding waste. That's Sean. Force main and pump station.
Yeah, I think.
Is that?
I think it's just a typo, Mr. Chairman.
That was the original plan, going down Knoll and
Right.
back.
Yeah.
So we're still doing an on-site
Well,
package plan? Is that what's being
I
proposed?
thought you were talking about the waste.
The wastewater.
No, the letter how it trailed off there didn't really conclude. My understanding is that they are discussing with the village connection and out of district usage.
So that is back on the table.
That is, yep.
Very good. Okay. Do you have comments on this one?
No, they had contacted me approximately a month ago, some questions on timing the water system to Stonehenge, so that we could supply Stonehenge from Youngs Grove, and I believe that they're working on that design currently.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
Just a question.
Yeah, Neil?
Stonehenge is now part of the overall water district in the town?
Correct.
So how's the town board's aware and everything? I'm assuming, aside from a conversation with the village, and having a conversation with the town board?
I'm sorry, with regard to water?
Water and wastewater?
No, there's no proposed connection for water to the village. They would connect to
Right.
Stonehenge.
Sure.
Stonehenge is part of a consolidated water district.
Right.
So if and when Youngs Grove was to come in, they'd have to petition the town board for an extension of that consolidated district.
Okay, there was some discussion at the town board meeting, like, they thought this is a wonderful thing, they're gonna be able to avoid having a second well in Stonehenge anytime soon.
Don't know, that sounds like a town board issue,
Okay, but it's also this issue,
unrelated to the extension.
okay, I don't disagree with that, but it's a complicated or
It's a
murky.
complicated application.
Okay. So the next question is, what about the village connection for wastewater? I'm assuming that that's also going and being discussed with the town board. Because the town board has been the one rejecting it in the past,
It would have to be, yes, that's correct.
but they haven't said anything about contacting or talking about the town board, right? I think, they just said the village board, right, Lee?
Well, as far as the pump, come on, Diana. Pump station and force main plans for resubmission to DEC will copy the town on the submission.
Okay. It just seems like they're kind of putting the cart before the horse here. And that if the town board's gonna say, I'm sorry, Kelly?
You recused on this application.
Oh, okay, never mind.
That's-
Everything I said, it doesn't matter.
I heard nothing. I heard nothing. So outside of what we didn't hear, is there anything on the board that we do want to hear? Not, Kelly?
I'm sorry,
Funny,
Kelly.
Neil, that was really funny.
Same date?
Same date, February 20th.
Could I have a motion then to extend the 290-day request extension to February 20th, 2025 for the Youngs Grove Reader project, conditional preliminary major subdivision approval?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by?
I'll second.
Giovanni, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. 2 down, 1 to go. Next one is State Route 94 LLC Solar Project, Lightstar Renewables. We have a letter dated July 26, 2024 to the planning board, and I guess the town board as well. I wrote on behalf of the above referenced applicant in response to the correspondence received from Sean Hoffman, PE, dated July 22nd, 2024. We understand that town board and planning board are required to act on this application, grant, deny, or grant with conditions within 62 days of the closing of the public hearing, which may expire on or about August 7, 2024. The applicant hereby consents to a 60-day extension so that the response to comment letters can be finalized and submitted. The applicant will cooperate with the town if another extension becomes necessary. In addition, the applicant respectfully requests a virtual workshop meeting to discuss the drafted responses at a high level and to ensure that the documents will be provided are sufficient to address all the concerns and data requests. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that may arise. It can be reached via phone or email. Olivia Feldman, Development Manager. I'm not exactly sure what they're asking, just 60
So
days?
they're asking to, because you have to make a determination within 62 days of the
Right.
close of the public hearing. And that time frame has passed. However, they haven't concluded seeker either. If you recall there, you asked for more information on their expanded part 3. 60 days is just shy of your October 3rd meeting, so I think it would be more appropriate for you to mutually agree to extend that to your October 3rd.
October 3rd?
And that just means you're not gonna make a decision, forced into making a decision before October 3rd.
And that's 2024.
Yes.
Could I have said motion?
I'll place the motion.
Diana, second by?
I'll second it.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for 17M Flex Building 12-2-43. We have an application for a site plan special permit approval for a warehouse and office on 8.9 plus or minus acres along New York State Route 17M, Cannon Hill Drive, I-Zone, AQ3 floodplain and ponding stream corridor, and water supply watershed overlays. First off, do we have anyone from the public here for this public hearing?
To speak for or against?
Whichever way you want to go with it, it's your comment. But yeah, well, not yet. I just wanted to make sure, see if we had anyone. This way, the consultant can give you a brief presentation of what's being proposed before we open up the public hearing.
Thank you, Joe.
These are the mailings that we give these to you.
I'll take it.
John, I hand them to you.
Thank you.
And Joe, if you just introduce yourself.
Yes. I have a plan here, so I just want to, best way to put it up here for the presentation. My name is Joe Fowl, with Peter Zach and Fowl representing the applicant. We're here for a site plan special use permit for a 50,000 square foot warehouse building. Oh, thank you, Sean. Which is located on the corner of New York State 17M and Cannon Hill Drive, which is an existing industrial park. This is one of the last parcels left in the park. It's an 8.9 acre parcel. It is in the I zone. We did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and received 3 variances for front yard setback, location of parking behind the building, which we could not achieve because it's on a corner lot. And the third variance was, the third variance was for curb cuts within 600 feet of each other. Again, these curb cuts are close together. It was a situation where no matter where we put the curb cut, we could not achieve the 600-foot distance from another existing curb cut. We have a single entrance into the property. We have a full stormwater design that's been done. We're served by an individual well and septic system. It's anticipated that the project will be, it's a flex style building, so the space will be able to be put into different square footages depending on what type of user. There's no specific users at this point, so it's the way the building will be set up is we could have one user which will take the whole building, or as a minimum they could be split up into like roughly 5,000 square foot units. All of the loading is behind the building on the opposite side of New York 17M. As part of the planning board review and zoning board review, we are proposing a berm, a vegetative and landscape berm along 17M to help, with the visual of the building from New York State 17M. And I suppose the last thing, which we still are unsure of, we're in contact with DOT. There's a possibility that we'll be putting in a turn lane off of 17M coming into the site. We have a traffic engineer, it's Creighton Manning, who is working with DOT directly on this particular issue. And that is pretty much it. The building itself will most likely look, if you're familiar with the industrial park, towards the rear, just before where the school bus facility is. There's a building in front of that. It'll be that similar architecture, and that's pretty much what we're proposing.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Sean.
Yeah, just a couple comments to add, Mr. Chairman. So this does require a special permit. In my previous comments, I'd asked the applicant to provide a narrative that we typically require. They had initially provided a narrative for an engineer's report, and then they provided an environmental, the part 3. So I asked the applicant again if they could provide us a narrative addressing the special permit criteria. Bike path, at your prior meeting, you discussed the bike path, you gave the applicant direction relative to the material. That's now shown on the plan. I'd just like you to have some discussion with the applicant this evening about the location of the termination of the bike path. I don't know if you could point it out to them where you're proposing to terminate.
Yeah, actually, where we terminated it is, it follows 17N. This is where the start of the abutters and bridges, right here. We've left it just short of that, right where the guardrail ends, because any potential future extension of this path would, have to go on this side of the guardrail, and so we stayed out of the floodplain, the stream corridor. It would just seem like this is the most likely place to end it. If anything, I would end it a little bit shorter than that. That's what we're proposing.
That's an asphalt.
Yes. As far as the location, I don't think that we should take it any further towards the river. That and the fact that it starts sloping
Say
down.
it drops over the topography.
And is there an ability for somebody to continue to ride on the bridge? I just don't remember what the bridge looks like. Are we saying that the bridge is not capable of handling bikes
I mean.
from a safety point of view?
I think that bikes are allowed on 17M.
Then it just comes in a little bit and you go over and see
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I guess it depends on what the board, what the purview is. If the reason we didn't shorten it was to, I don't know if you wanted to encourage people to go across the bridge. So for us, it really doesn't make a difference where it ends, but we ended it just exactly at the end of the guardrail.
Which is the reasonable place to end it.
Again, there was a lot of discussion about this. There's really no direction in your code. I just wanted the board, have an opportunity to discuss this this evening with the applicant.
That sidewalk comes around onto Cannon Hill Drive as well, or?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
You said it's a bicycle path,
Correct.
and it will be made up of what?
Asphalt. It will be an asphalt.
It was 5 feet wide.
Yes.
And so just for clarity, the experience that somebody will have on the bike path when they're transitioning from the bridge to the asphalt,
They have to enter the right of way.
Yeah, they just go off the bike pathing onto the actual
right
right
side.
of way
Okay,
of
okay.
17N.
A couple other comments before we start with that discussion. The applicant provided a turning analysis. I did have some comments on the turning. They modeled WB 67, those are wheelbase 67-foot trucks. In the entering movement, they had shown the approaching truck in the wrong lane, so that analysis needs to be redone. I did have some comments about the retaining walls. You recall between the loading docks, they have retaining walls to make up grade. It was unclear from the printed version of materials that I received whether the trucks can maneuver out and not clip the end of the retaining wall. So I'd ask the applicant if they can provide a more zoomed in analysis. And then on leaving, as you'd expect, the WB 67 will approach into the opposite direction. They didn't complete the analysis, so I don't know how long that vehicle is going to be encroaching and whether there's going to be any impact on vehicles turning right off of 17M.
Was there an issue also, I was thinking, as far as the berm itself on Cannon Hill, as far as the extent of it, or is that tied in with the DOT evaluation?
We had asked the applicant to look at that.
Have we gotten any
Neil
feedback on
brought
that?
that up the last meeting. No, it's
It's not on these plans because we did not submit new plans for
Right.
the public hearing, but we've pulled that berm back
Pulled it
slightly
back.
from our entrance and provided the site distances. And we've also provided the DOT asked for some additional information, so we're resubmitting new turn lane analysis actually going onto the state road as well. So when we make that submission to the DOT, we'll make the submission to this office as well, to this board as well.
Thanks, Joe.
Just some last minute items, Mr. Chairman. The applicant used a factor of 0.07 gallons per day per square foot. And they calculated ultimately 976 gallons per day required. I had asked the applicant to consider using employee criteria rather than square foot criteria because they've indicated that they would have a maximum of 24 employees because of the non-public water system. So if we're committed to not providing a public water system, as the applicant indicated, I think the water and sewer need to be designed off of that.
What we'd like to maintain the 976 gallons per day and approach the health department and get.
So you want to switch to that? Okay.
Well,
It gives you more
you know why?
flexibility.
Yes, it gives us flexibility.
Okay.
What we don't want to do is under-design the septic system based on that, and then find out that we have a user that comes in that'll be above the 25. So our intent is to maintain the 976 and go to DOH.
And the county has already approved the location of the well. if I'm
Yes,
not
yes, they
mistaken.
have.
Okay. We started out as a public water supply, I think, and then we went into a non-public, and now we're back to public. My only concern was that and you've encountered this in the past, there's no way to police that, right? So if we agreed as a 24 employees, but we've oversized the water and sewer systems, that could, they could need to be a public water supply and not get that approval.
Well, that would certainly, we'd be okay with a condition of getting DOH approval.
And the last item I had was just on the grading. The grading is very flat, in my opinion, coming out. So it grades from the warehouse to the south, which is the rear line, if you will. And the plan, I think, indicates 0.07%.
Yeah,
it's a typo.
Yeah, it's
But even
0.7.
Even at 0.7, that's very shallow. I don't know if they're going to have problems with drainage.
Drainage.
Yeah, we'll look into that. Worst case scenario, we'll put grates in right along the end of the.
Intercept.
Yeah.
That's
We
all
were
I have.
just trying to avoid a negative pitch back to the building. That was our
Understood.
intent.
That's all I have, unless the board has any questions.
Questions for Sean?
None here.
I have
Go
one
ahead.
question on the landscape island issue.
You actually reminded me of one of the point I wanted to raise. Go on, I'm sorry.
You mentioned that in your report, the islands as they exist now are sort of parallel to the building, I think. And just because I don't know, like, is that an approved way that we've, or have we approved that type of orientation before? And to the extent that they need to add landscaping or landscape islands, like, does our parking bank need to be affected by that or anything?
So your code is very specific in one sense. It says that if you have more than so many vehicles in a parking lot, you have to have landscape islands. They have to be no more than 120 feet apart. I think it says something along the lines of for every 1,500 feet of curb, you need a 3-inch caliper deciduous tree. But it doesn't give you any direction in terms of where and the orientation of those landscape islands. So this board has approved on the applicant's other property at the end of Cannon Hill a very similar design. The issue I had with the landscape islands are the proposing shrubs, which probably would make more sense, but it doesn't comply with your code. So I think they need to put in deciduous trees, as unfortunately as that is.
A dwarf deciduous.
They could find something, as long as it complies with it. The other item that I forgot to bring up was the earth berm. The plan now has evolved to the point where the applicant's showing more detail on landscaping. They're showing, I think, 72 evergreens. I forget the species. Was it a white pine?
Was a white one.
It
Yeah,
was,
it's a
okay.
white pine.
And they have them at 12 feet on center. Now, when you consider the visual impact, you were just considering an unnamed tree at 6 feet high and what that could actually look like. Now you have some more information. So I had 2 questions for you to consider this night. One, are you satisfied with the species? And then are you happy with the spacing and, worried about it being visual impact in and of itself, that it's just a wall of evergreen?
It's about 12 feet, there's only 6 feet on each set of branches, meeting in the middle. That doesn't sound like a long time before the growth just totally turns it into a wall of green.
Yeah.
Well, I had actually undertaken to ask a landscape designer as to the wisdom of using white pine. And their comment to me is that while they do grow well in this area, they tend to, as they age, they tend to shed their lower branches. And so you lose the effect of the purpose for which you're seeking, which is to act as a buffer. So I think what I would ask, and I think the board would be interested in you exploring alternatives to the white pine.
And just, we are going to be submitting a revised landscaping plan from a licensed landscape architect. So I will, give that information, that comment, as well as Sean's with the caliber.
Yeah. Sean, there was one other, looking over your notes. You had commented on the fact that at the height of 15 feet, where the lights attached to the wall of the warehouse are, they would actually be higher than the berm.
Yes.
And I think what we would like to see is an adjustment to that, so that the lighting doesn't affect 17.
Okay. Yeah, I've gone through Sean's comments, and we can accommodate all of them. I had a couple of questions, but I think that Sean already went through them. It was just a couple of comments for Mr. Leva to confirm a couple of zoning things, which is fine. I just want to, the one was you had a comment about the chain link fence along the retaining walls, the short retaining walls that go back into the, for the loading areas. Is that code just for chain link fence?
I think the code has a prohibition against chain link.
Okay, so if we put some type of a rail, we're thinking about maybe just, some type of a railing of some sort, as opposed to a chain link fence along that.
The code has a prohibition against chain link fences.
Okay, all right.
So any other railing that meets the building code requirements of wall height would satisfy the town code.
So that's that.
Okay, another point, getting back to what Phil was saying. If you look across the street at El Perry landfill, those are white pines. So that's what it's gonna look like. A total disaster, and they're at least, 30, 40 feet tall? And all that'd be on the bottom. And they're gonna need a lot of spacing, so I would.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Other comments from the board?
I'll also comment on the white pines. They obviously, they grow fast, so it might not be long before they potentially interfere with the electric and communication distribution out on 17, and then utility comes in and starts chopping them up, so maybe something that's
Yeah, I got it.
not as tall.
So no on the white pines unless you.
That's the message.
No white pine.
Any other comments, questions? If not, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
Is this on this issue now?
Pardon?
Okay.
I'm not recused on this, no. Okay, just a question, Joe. The berm is going to run with the road or run with the property behind it? The
It'll
driveway?
be within the property.
No, but the elevation, we're talking about whatever, an 8-foot berm, whatever the height is. Is that going to run down with the road, or is it going to run with the?
Yes. Well, yeah, but I mean, what we're doing is maximizing it along, so some parts will be higher than others, but yes.
Yeah, because I think you said last time that the one end of the building near the bridge, you're going to be raising that land up, or that.
Yeah, the berm will be highest there.
Will be lowest there.
Yeah, and lowest, well, the berm itself will be highest from the view from 17N. And what happens is the building itself will be buried going towards Cannon Hill Drive. We're trying to push that into the ground.
Okay.
We're trying to sink the building as much as possible.
Yeah. I just trying to make sure that the berm's not going to be lower than the driveway at some point.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Good, thank you, that's number one. Number two, last week when I was at the town board meeting, somebody in the public gave me a memo from the DOT stating that 17M is now going to be allowed to have special dimension vehicles. As I understand that, that means over-length trucks and also tandem trailers. And my question only with that is, does that impact our turning distances, radiuses, and does that change what we have to look at possibly in terms of parking trailers? For the most part, you don't park two tandem trailers and back them into a building. You have to separate them out, so you may need more parking spaces or not. And I don't know the answers, I'm just asking the questions.
I have some of the answers. So that determination, although from the DOT, although it might sound beneficial to applicants and perhaps this applicant, it actually hurts this applicant.
I think it
The
does.
reason it hurts this applicant is it brings that road into a higher classification for use classification. So in terms of a left turn lane, that road isn't wide enough, so it wouldn't be a restriping. So the applicant would actually have to add pavement and widen the road for a left turn lane. So that determination is detrimental. In terms of the larger vehicles on this site, the applicant's indicated that WV 67 is going to be the largest vehicle utilizing the site, and they're obliged to comply with that. If they in the future use larger vehicles, it would be a site plan violation, they'd have to come back.
And we'll restrict that in either the approval or no formation, however, yeah.
Are we gonna put some kind of signage up saying no oversized trucks on the property?
I don't necessarily know if you need to do that. There's a lot of conditions that the board assigns that they could ask for a sign if they think that would help, but it's, as you know, it's code enforcement.
Sure, but there's no way that Frank's gonna sit out there and measure trucks.
And
And there's no way that drivers coming in are gonna know that, hey, my truck is too big for that, whatever, without some sign up there saying, hey, I can't do this. And I just think if we're gonna do that, if that's the way we're gonna handle it, I think we have to put some kind of notification up there.
Look, you can most certainly put a sign. The board absolutely can, as a condition of any action, include a sign. I just don't know how effective the sign is going to be.
I don't know either, but it makes me a little bit nervous. So the second thing is, or maybe it's the third thing now. Number three, okay? Number three, when trucks are leaving Cannon Hill Drive and they're gonna make a right-hand turn, if they're gonna stay in their own lane, they have to go in the wrong lane on Cannon Hill Drive, I believe. Okay? And if they have to do that, they have to stop back further from the intersection, then cars are gonna have to. So I just wanna make sure that if, whatever that distance is, and I don't know if it's 10 feet back from the intersection or 50 feet back, to be able to go into the left-hand lane and make the turn, we just need to make sure that that berm is not gonna interfere with sight distances for trucks who have to stop back further, I think.
We had spoken about that in the last meeting.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I haven't heard that it's been resolved.
But we're
On
talking
Cannon
about
Hill.
doing the turning analysis.
Yes.
That's got to consider that, that's why part why the permit is
Okay.
being
Yeah, that was part of what
changed.
we.
Okay, good, thank you.
DOT.
The DOT is going to be looking at that
Yep.
issue.
That's it, thank
No
you.
number four?
No, number four.
Okay. In that case, can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Phil, seconded by Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Anyone from the public that wishes to speak, I would ask you to announce your name, your address, and then for the record, just let us know what you're thinking.
Relative to this project.
I was going to say that, relative, not just concerning this project, relative is a good word too. Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Healy, town of Goshen resident. I appreciate Kelly's levity, makes it easy, some of these meetings. I have been following along with this building for quite some time. I am impressed on one hand with how many hoops the board and the zoning board of appeals have jumped through for this applicant. Would have been much easier if the applicant came in and said, I want to put in an ice cream stand, and everything would have been just great. I have sat in on a few of the ERB meetings, and we've had some discussions. The Cannon Hill Drive, for anybody that doesn't know, is home to a very large tractor trailer business in the back. They do tractor trailer repairs. There's also a school bus garage. These are high torque, low speed vehicles, right? They don't move very quickly when coming from a dead stop. Anybody that's ever come off of Cannon Hill Drive, you will find out very quickly that the timing of the traffic lights at Hartley Road and at the transfer station just seems to be that the ferry gets out and the traffic comes down from both sides and meets right about there at Cannon Hill Drive. In between those traffic lights, there are people still on the road, so getting out there now onto that road can be treacherous at times. During rush hour, sometimes, do a Hail Mary, close your eyes, punch it, and make a hole. During the middle of the night, I'm sure it's pretty easy, but during rush hour, it's no joke. We just had a pretty bad accident out there just the other day, shut down the road for the day. The road is already heavily traveled. We had a discussion at the ERB. Louis Adamas gave us a tremendous amount of information, as I think we can all agree he's a professional truck driver. I personally hold a Class B. I drive tandem and tri-axle dump trucks. I agreed with him completely about the turning lane. I know there's a turning analysis that needs to be done. Can we, at the very minimum, require the applicant to do a balloon test to show us, look, we're already doing away with the 200-foot setback, so where exactly is this building going to sit? Where is this berm? Where are these trees? And how much sightline distance does a truck driver actually have when approaching 17M? Now, I know we talk about, yes, Sean, you can put a sign there that says no trucks. There's big signs, they're red and they got 8 sides and nobody listens to them either. So signs don't really do much when the guy pulls in with the truck. And as a truck driver, if you need to make your right onto 17M, trying to do that from a dead stop, sometimes a day simply won't be able to do it. You won't get the hole to do it. And other times treacherous in that you got to make that, they're going to make that roll. I know they're not supposed to. I know they're not supposed to. But they're going to have to cross over the lane. And that pushes the other guy into the other lane. And now you've got a high-speed collision between two cars at a combined speed of 100 miles an hour. And people die. I think it would be right, it would be prudent, it would be reasonable for the board to request and require the applicant to do a balloon test so that we can see exactly where this building is going to sit and to see exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about trucks coming out onto 17M. It's possible, hear me out on this, it's possible that this is just the wrong size project for this parcel of land. Just because the applicant wants something doesn't mean he has to get something. That's why we're here, is for the board, with your combined wisdom, to say, sorry, this just doesn't work. It's still okay to say that. If it does work, then I'm all for it. I like growth, I like controlled growth, but a lot of hoops going through to make this thing work. At the very minimum, I think a balloon test would be prudent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Sean, can you weigh in on that one at all?
On which aspect of it, Mr. Chairman?
As far as the benefits of a balloon test versus the
Sure.
review on paper?
A balloon test would give you the idea perhaps of the four corners and where they stand. I don't think a balloon test could help you with the height of the berm. The applicant's provided you with a cross-section so you get some sort of a feel for it. I think you do have an understanding of it. The berm and the trees are not going to completely shield the building. I think you've known that from the beginning. Again, maybe Mr. Hill, you want to give some more description on the balloon test. So they could float balloons at the four corners, but I don't know if anybody, that would just tell you where the building is spatially and then the height of the building, the top of the building. Yeah.
Well, at the very minimum, what I'm saying is, yes, show me where the four corners are going to be, but I don't see why we can't put a tape measure out. That's where the berm is going to be, and the berm is going to be 6 feet, and 10 feet on top of that, float me a balloon there. And now, as we drive up in a truck, and I'm pretty sure somebody can get a dump truck out there, I know a guy, but you're coming out of Cannon Hill, give the driver an opportunity to see, what am I seeing when I look to the left? And at how far do I have to go before I now have the sight line to make a safe turn? A balloon floated there, I know it's, I'm not asking to build a Hollywood set. I'm saying, but as we're all reasonable adults, we can tell, here's the balloon, that's gonna be completely opaque. I can't see down the road. Or maybe you can, I don't know. But a balloon test would certainly be prudent. We'd have an idea, much better idea than drawings and sketches. Real world, there's nothing like 3D real world.
I don't, and I agree with you in many instances, and I don't know if you've had a chance to review the plan, but there is a considerable setback. I understand it's not 200 feet, but in terms of where this applicant's property line is to the edge of pavement, I don't have a dimension on it. Perhaps
It's around 25, between 25 and 30 feet.
So before the berm even starts, there's no earthwork or anything occurring 25 feet off the edge of pavement.
And I'm saying that in my GMC pickup truck, that's probably fine. But if you're driving a tractor trailer that's just coming out of New Jersey repairs, I'm sorry, I forget the name of it, or you're driving a school bus, and by the way, you've got 5 school buses behind you, and we're all on a schedule, somebody's gonna push that sign. And then it's a deal. And then somebody's dead or critically injured. A balloon test gives us at least a 3D picture of what it's going to be. Hey, you put the balloon test up and you got good sight lines, I'm all for it. But I can't, from a drawing, two-dimensional drawing, I can't tell any of that. And once again, if it was an ice cream store down in the corner, yeah, no problems. We're talking about variances. So I just think a balloon test gives you something to say, hey, we did everything we could. Short of that, you haven't.
Thanks, Chris. Others from the public?
So I think that you've gotten some comments tonight. The applicant is submitting new plans, they said, new landscaping plans. You should discuss the element that you heard tonight regarding a balloon test, if that's something you're interested in. As you know, seeker is closed, and their aesthetic impacts were not listed there, but you do have your site plan and special permit powers. As Sean mentioned earlier, they were going to be submitting some information that he requested to demonstrate those elements so that you could make your findings. One of which is whether or not the proposed project will be suitable for the property on which it's proposed, considering the property's size, location, topography, vegetation, soils, natural habitat, and hydrology, and if appropriate, its ability to be buffered or screened from neighboring properties and public roads. So I don't know if you think that it falls into that category. Just reviewing the findings, I thought that would be the closest one.
We could hold the public hearing open at this point, based on what we're looking for.
I think that you certainly could. And I think that the revised plans would respond to a lot of the questions that the board had and some of the questions that the public comments that we received. And also, the applicant stated that you're in communication with the DOT at this point.
Yeah, and we're making a submission shortly with some additional information that they asked for, specifically site distance and turning analysis with the berm being considered.
So as the board knows, the planning board can't require off-site improvements to be made, but the negative declaration found, I don't want to read you the exact language, but basically if the, I'm just going to read you the language, it's easier if I do that. The planning board has been made aware that a left turn lane is currently warranted at the intersection of Cannon Hill Drive and New York State Route 17M, and that intersection has experienced a higher than average accident rate. Based on the fact that the increase in traffic will be modest, it is concluded that any potential impacts associated with the additional traffic this project will generate would be offset by the construction of a left turn lane on New York State 17M, and the applicant is directed to apply to the New York State DOT for the same. The planning board acknowledges that the proposed action is located with frontage upon a New York State roadway, and the New York State DOT has the jurisdiction to determine whether this or any other upgrades to such roadway, including turn lanes, are required. So they are applying to the DOT. I think it makes sense for the board to hear back from the DOT on that. If the DOT says that a left turning lane is required, then one obviously has to be constructed. But you did recognize that there was an impact, albeit you said that it was modest, but it would still be an impact that you need to then say if it needs to be mitigated somehow. If the DOT isn't allowing something to be constructed, whatever they do to them, but that you would just need to make sure that if you think that a further mitigation is required, that that's incorporated into this plan. What that may be, I don't know, that would be for the applicant. It could be moving
Something on site.
it could be something on site. I don't have any even examples to give you, but that's something that should be addressed and maybe addressed in the next submission.
Initial comments from our traffic consultant, they're fairly confident that the DOT, the warrants meet the turn lane. So we don't suspect any pushback.
Okay. Well, then that's good. So I would say, do you know how long it would take to get, no? Maybe 60 days?
That's it, we won't set it for the next meeting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
How about the first meeting in October? That's 2 months.
Yeah,
And if nothing more, you just got to check in and reschedule.
That's Rosh Hashanah.
I was going to bring that up. It's the second night of Rosh Hashanah. I don't know if that's.
Some people may not be here
That's correct. So I don't know if you want.
from the public
that
or
long.
on this board.
The meeting after that is October 17th.
That should give you lots of time, but
Well, I'm hoping that maybe we get lucky. I mean, could we schedule for September and I'll.
September 19th would be the one right before.
I'd rather do that.
It doesn't matter what you'd rather, what they rather. But we appreciate it, thank you.
we schedule a public, you said Rosh Hashanah was when?
October 3rd.
That's the
7th,
yeah, first week meeting of October. If we were to schedule the public hearing, the continuance for September 19th, and we did not have the documentation, at that point, we just push it out further anyway. We could extend that date. So, comments from the board? No?
documentation we'll be looking for is DOT.
Largely the DOT, we'll also have the modified plans, but,
And the turning and
Turning
the
analysis.
landscaping.
you know, that'll all be in hand by then.
Well, we can set it for the
19th.
September, subject to those,
Right.
having those documents in hand.
Exactly.
If not, then it gets pushed back to
To the second meeting in October.
October 17th.
If I could add just one thing to your discussion before we continue, Mr. Chairman. So they're waiting for DOT, right? And DOT could come back with a different number of things. And I agree with you, it likely meets the warrants, right? So the bottom rung of what they could have to do is put in a left turn signal. DOT may look at this and they decide it needs a traffic signal. I don't know. But the reason I bring this up is there's a whole host of different things that could happen with that intersection that would affect this property. If the applicant doesn't have a response from DOT, I don't know if it's worth looking at turning analysis and other things at this point. So I think that's crucial.
Well, that's the key
for them to
document.
make the submission. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't think they should make another submission until they hear back from the DOT.
Now, with the DOT, do they look at the cumulative analysis on 17M? You know, obviously, as far as getting out of this property is one thing. It's the traffic that's coming from the other properties that are being proposed as well, on either side of it. Do they look at?
It's gonna be like your analysis in seeker, they're gonna be looking at traffic generation, peak hour, they're gonna consider sight lines and geometry of the intersection.
Okay, so it's not just that one intersection in the vacuum.
No,
Okay.
it should not, it shouldn't be.
So the only thing I would say is, sorry, the only thing I would say is not to, there are members from the public here and they have spoken, so what I would suggest is you do adjourn it to a date certain. If at such time you don't have the new information, it can be posted on the agenda, it can be posted on the website if they don't want to come to that. But it should be to a date certain, because they're not going to know if you received materials or not.
But we're talking on September 19th.
September 9th.
And the new information includes the turning analysis.
It includes it, but most specifically, the DOT,
Then DOT.
we don't have that, it's a deal
Yeah.
breaker.
Right,
That does include that.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Could I have a motion? Can I do that within the public hearing? I'm sure I have to close the public hearing. Adjourn the public hearing
Moving
first.
to adjourn the public
That's the
hearing.
thing, I'm going to do that first, then
That's the only thing you're doing.
Until September 19th.
all's one thing, okay, that's even better.
That's just the motion.
Wow, all right.
We have a motion to adjourn the public hearing until September 19th. Could I have a second on that? Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Mr. Chairman, one last thing, you heard comment regarding the balloon test. Since it's going to the DOT and they may have additional comments, I don't know if you want to consider that now, if you want to wait to hear back from DOT. And my thinking is if the DOT requires a light, some of those concerns or site, or different things with site
It
distances.
becomes a moot point.
It may, yeah.
You know,
Well, I was gonna say, it might be less expensive and maybe just as practical, or, because the same, they just put like a pole up in the air with the height there.
you're talking a tall pole. and you're
No, I don't
talking a number
think,
of-
no, I'm not worried about, I'm not worried about the corner of the building, I'm worried more about the berm.
The berm, yes, you're
Yeah,
talking.
so the berm's 8 foot plus whatever, that's a big 2x4 or something like that, but,
Well, why don't we see what the DOT comes back with?
yeah.
We'll make our decisions.
Yeah, we'll hold off on the balloon until we get something back.
Would the DOT put another light when half a mile down the road you've got the landfill light?
It's possible,
They are.
when they do their analysis.
They would put it that close?
It depends on the warrant analysis.
Yeah, our consultant had mentioned that the idea of possibly just changing the timing of the two lights, which was mentioned, to break up, the traffic.
But they were talking about doing that all along 17M
Yes.
with the other projects anyway, all the way up to
And that-
6.5 Station Road.
That goes back to what we discussed earlier, but they don't consider just this one intersection in fact.
Yeah,
Who knows, they could ask for like a road. Yeah.
The issue's going to be.
I don't think so.
Fine.
Is the berm cut
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Chris, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Luna Realty. Is that pronounced right, Luna?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. LLC, Northeast Great Dane, 20-1-33.1. We have an application for an amended site plan for a truck repair and sales facility on 11.6 plus or minus acres along New York State Route 94, Randall Street in the CO zone, AQ3 floodplain and ponding overlays. We're here this evening, Brad, for an initial presentation to commence the secret process. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Good evening, I'm Brad Cleverly from NJS Engineering. This project is here because we preferred in the Village of Florida, there was a re-subdivision where the applicant went from 3 lots to 2 lots to have a better configuration for an existing multifamily residence. As part of that approval by the Village of Florida, there is a easement in favor of the lot in the town of Goshen that goes through the Village of Florida over to Route 94, and then also another residential lot, which was approved with a 4 units on. As part of the approval, there was a requirement that the Great Dane building disconnect the water from the Village of Florida water system. Well, right now, it gets Village of Florida water as a private sewer system on the site. And so it was determined previously as part of this process that this requires an amended site plan. The only action that the applicant is really here for is to construct a well, provide water to the building, and then while I looked at it, the striping, there really wasn't striping in the parking lot right in front of it, so to add striping for an accessible parking space and the rest of the parking right in front of the building. And then we also demonstrated that there's adequate parking there for the employees.
Brad, can you do the board a favor? I know I had a little difficulty. The lot that we're talking about is the larger parcel.
Yes.
That house, that dwelling, multi-unit dwelling, is that part of it, or is that a third lot?
No, I'm gonna kind of, that's why I brought, this is the Village of Florida action, which I'll kind of explain to you. Sean and Kelly are familiar with it. But anyway, there were 3 lots. There were 3 lots in the Village of Florida. And so what the proposed action was, which was approved by the Village of Florida Planning Board, is that the house, which is here, would be on this single lot, which is a better configuration for the house. And then there's another lot, which is a somewhat unusual configuration, but it's essentially whatever's left over, which is the only use of this lot at this time, is that there's an access easement in favor of the Goshen lot where Great Dane is to cross over the existing driveway, which has been there for decades, over to 94. So we got this lot, which has the house on it, which would be in the Village of Florida. This lot, which is also in the Village of Florida. And then Mr. Lunar also owns this lot, which is in the town of Goshen.
So where that driveway comes in, we're coming off of 94, we're showing the flare and the driveway comes in and kind of ends right at the dotted line. How does that go through the town of Goshen? I mean, is it traveling behind all the post parking and then coming in behind the building, or where's the driveway?
Well, this is all just a big parking lot, and so there's
no structured driveway, it's just
right.
comes to the ground.
You go into you go from the driveway into the big parking lot, and like it's not so much. So this whole area you see here on the one which is it comes in, and then this whole area here, this parking lot, which is primarily storage of trailers. They do the trailer repair in this building, and then they just park the trailers pretty much throughout here, and then there's parking for the employees, which is primarily over here.
Okay, then a couple other questions. Where the septic field and the packet plant, where is that located?
Over here. Okay, I asked the owner that. Haven't located it yet, but it's someplace over here.
Not anywhere near where the well's being proposed?
No, it's as you said, it's out back. so I have not located it yet, but I think it's someplace, it's probably over here.
That's not what's shown on the approved plan.
Excuse me?
The approved plan has it.
Yeah, so I think part of why they're here as well, is to bring what is there into compliance. So it's not just really separating the well, it's, they have to bring what is there into compliance. As with any operation that is as big as lunar propane, it expands over time, which it shouldn't, but they do. So that's why it's here for you.
Okay, and then the other question, and maybe that's just the gravel, maybe that's what it is. All around that circuitous border, you have like a gravel line, the font all the way around.
Yeah,
Is that just saying that everything inside that is gravel? Is that-
it's gravel, yeah.
Okay.
There's some asphalt in here, some pavement, but it's hard to say exactly where the asphalt.
It's not retaining walls or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Looks like dominoes. Sean?
Just a couple of quick things, Mr. Chairman. So just to add on to what Kelly and Mr. Cleverly said. So yes, this started because they needed a well, and that's how it became on building inspector's radar. But when we compared it to the site plan that was approved in '98, it's dramatically different. And I assume everybody's looking on their aerial pictures right now, and they see what we're talking about. So I had requested the applicant provide a comparison so you can determine what was previously approved and what you are now considering for approval at this time. From my quick review, it seemed like everything to the east or right, if you will, of the existing buildings in the general area of the well. This isn't a floodplain. It was approved to be in a floodplain in '98. My understanding is that any review that you do now under your zoning code, and we're making the applicant comply with your current zoning code relative to flooding, is only on what was not approved in '98. So it's the additional work that would have to meet the current requirements. There's a lot of storage. You indicated that the trailers are being repaired. There's questions relative to water quality with Quaker Creek. I can't say that, sorry. And then also with regard to the floodplain and storage of materials in the floodplain.
Are these trailers stored empty, or is there material inside the trailers?
It's just a trailer for trailers only. To my knowledge, there's nothing in the trailers. Just empty trailers.
Empty trailers.
It's not like a warehouse with stuff in the trailers.
That's what I was looking at, because we're surrounding potential well area with trailers, so I didn't know what was, if
Yeah,
anything was
empty
stored.
trailers.
Okay.
And then in addition to floodplain and outdoor storage, I had a question as to whether the bridge meets fire code requirements. That's the only way into and out of the site currently, as far as I know. And then lastly, the applicant confirmed that it doesn't need Department of Health approval for the well, but I questioned whether there's a fire suppression system, taking it off of a municipal connection, and whether they need a storage tank now.
I asked Mr. Lunar that he was uncertain whether it had a fire suppression system, so that still needs to be confirmed, which I will confirm.
It is an evolving application.
Okay. Phil?
I think actually for myself, perhaps for other members of the board, it's a little bit confusing looking at the map. I'd like to go out there and walk the grounds and get a better idea of the physical layout. So I would think, for me, that would be helpful.
Jeremy?
I have no questions or comments.
I don't have any comments, but just a question, why would they be proposing a water well in a floodplain? Just
Because generally because of its proximity to the building. There's no reason to drill it 100 feet away and drill 70 and have it in close proximity to the building and put less pipe in the ground. And of course, it would extend, in accordance, the wells can be in floodplains, just need to extend up above the flood elevation.
Like Sean mentioned, I'd like to see a site plan that represents what was approved and the difference between what was approved and what exists now. Because it is somewhat confusing to try and, decipher what we're looking at here.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I looked at, I went back into historic aerials, trying to go back in time to 1998. And it's actually more is parking in 1998 than it is today, based on the aerials.
You were more out of compliance. than
Violation.
Just a good reason to approve this project, very simple.
Interesting approach.
Yes.
You're already guilty.
Well done. No objection.
No objection there, okay. Seamus?
A clearer site plan would definitely be helpful, and Phil has a great idea. Maybe we should take a look at this place.
Diana?
I agree, and it's definitely gonna be cleaner. And you're putting in a well because you lost the water from the village?
As a requirement of the Village of Florida approval of the re-subdivision from 3 lots to 2 lots, the requirement from the Village of Florida Planning Board is to disconnect Great Dane from the Village of Florida water system, which is, it's been connected to Village of Florida water system for decades.
I can give you
That's
some,
why you need the well.
I can give you
Okay.
some background on that. The Village of Florida has a surface water, their water supply is Glenmere Lake. They are finding themselves more and more in water restrictions because of use. They have a number of out-of-village water users, including Great Dane, that use a lot of water. And the village board has adopted a policy that they are looking for those users to disconnect from the water system gradually, and as folks come to the planning board and things like that. So the planning board did include that resolution condition. So in order to finalize his approval in the Village of Florida, he needs to have this well. In order to have this well, it opens up the door of all these violations, if you will.
That includes the county buildings on 6.5 Station Road as well. They have to get off Florida water too.
Do they?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, they do.
So they're gonna start using the same
They will.
wells in the proximity of Goshen Hospitality, but it's a different
Well,
story.
we don't know what's happening yet. Neil, did you?
I'm okay, thank you.
As far as setting up a site visit,
I think check with your client, get a few days, and let Grace know, and then Grace will coordinate, and Frank.
Through the building department.
Through the building department. And it, sorry.
I'll have a bologna sandwich. No,
Any requests will be accommodated.
no.
do you have other questions for us?
Yes, you know, as part of this application, obviously, they gotta build the well. Whether they build the well and they've had a little bit more gravel here, a little bit more gravel there, no matter what, they gotta build the well. There's no reason to build that well in, say, months from now, when, you know, the weather is like, you know, worse than it is today. And the applicant would really like to build the well, construct the well, and I just discussed this with him. What he'd like to do is construct the well, use the well, and then disconnect from the water system, you know.
Which well protocols are you following before it gets activated?
Well, it's a non-public.
It's not a public water system, but it still has to comply with town requirements.
Right, just we'll comply with town requirements, but just like you would apply for a building permit for a well, that's what they'd like to do. They get to apply for the building, essentially get the building permit for the well and get that moving along independent of the amended site plan approval.
Okay, but not, because you said get off the other and start using it.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump in here, because you're hitting the nail on the head. No. That is the short answer. The long answer is, I could drone on, but I don't think that Frank would have a problem if, you know, the well was dug and they brought the testing protocol to the board said, yes, test it, here's what you get.
No physical connection.
Because that's gonna have to be done, just like Brad said, that's gonna have to be done as part of this application. But you also have to consider the impacts of that well on this application, which is, again, here before you, maybe because it started with Florida, but if Frank would have been out there at some point, I'm sure, and there could have been violations. So there are things that they need to do in Goshen to comply with Goshen's.
Did Florida give you a drop dead deadline that you have to be off their water?
No, they did not.
Okay.
However, if we could
But they prefer to be off it sooner rather than later,
Right.
so this will be a motivation for Brad to get in the EAF so we can do seeker and to progress, diligently proceed during the process.
Oh, we just submit the EAF.
I was gonna say.
No,
it wasn't
You need a long form.
You need a long.
That was a short one.
It's unlisted, so what the board can do tonight
Let's type it.
is you can declare your intent to serve as lead agency and you can type it as unlisted, and I just can't do the mailings until Brad emails me a long form EAF.
And this will be a single user well.
Yes, that's correct. Just it'll be solely for the use of the Great Dane.
And 20 employees,
Yes,
has that been steady, the 20 employees? or
yes.
They're not in a growth pattern?
Well, they can't grow because the building's only so big.
No, but there's more room for trailers.
Well, there's no room for trailers in the building.
Okay,
It only fits so many trailers in the building.
okay. That's why I'm
And so-
sure.
yeah.
This way, there's no surprise down the road that you hit that 25 mark.
There's no intent.
No plan,
You know,
okay.
There's no plan to go up to 30. There just isn't room in the building
Okay.
to do that.
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with this board's normal practice, I think that's going to be pretty highlighted in any action that you take.
The way it's written.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, just, since we have history on this, and we have history on a meter probably, it might be really good to get some idea. I realize we were looking at 20 employees, but what other water use is on the property? So maybe in excess of that, or twice the amount of, we might expect just with that number of employees. So if we can get that, it might be helpful.
Demonstrate usage, that's a good idea.
There's a lot of action.
Sorry, I was processing what you're saying, that's a good idea.
Brad,
Occasionally, yeah.
that building in the back, the little square building on the northwest corner, are there any water facilities in that building where the water's connected to the other?
Not to my knowledge, but I really have to get back to you on that.
Confirm that.
I've never really been back, just because I had no real need to, been back to that building to confirm that.
Okay. If you could look into that.
So, since we can't construct the well now, at one point, might we be able to construct the well? Or after there's a plan in
At
place?
one point, you will be able to,
Okay.
not
Just not
anytime
today.
soon. I think we really need to progress the application and need to put together a plan in accordance with your code. And the sooner that gets to you guys, the sooner they can do the testing and make sure, things comply.
So, I'm sorry,
But providing the additional water usage from the meter, by the way, is
are we saying they cannot drill the well at this point, or they can't connect the well at this point?
I said that I had no problem as long as Frank was okay if they drilled a well, but that it still has to be tested
Right.
in accordance and,
Okay.
because, the weather's nice outside.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I thought we were mixing messages going back.
Okay, so we can drill the well then?
Talk to Frank.
If I could,
Okay.
just.
Get a permit from Frank for that.
I think earlier in this meeting, you said you were unaware of where the septic system is. I think
We'll
you're-
confirm that.
I think you're going to want to figure that out.
We're showing remnants of,
Yes, there
you know,
is.
pump, sewer, pump, manhole, concrete covers, concrete plastic covers. I mean,
Relatively
what part of it? Force mains, I mean, there's a lot of pieces moving around there.
Yeah, so
We can tie it all together from the building right to the.
We had bloodhound out there, and they spent an entire day out there. That's what they
That's
found.
the best they came up with.
That's what they came up with after spending an entire day locating utilities.
A little more effort on that end. They're gonna have to do something more. Well, at least you can get something on paper. Could I have a motion to declare this board's intent to be lead agency?
I'll place motion.
Diana, second by?
I'll second.
Giovanni, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And could I have a motion then to type this project as an unlisted action?
So moved.
Giovanni, second by?
I'll second.
Diana, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Anything else?
Just Brad needs to send me the full EAF.
Brad knows what he needs to do.
Certainly. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which brings us to you, Sean.
So I was hoping to report that you may not have a meeting, but you had a submission late today, Jessup Switch Road. If you remember, you got it, I think.
Yeah, those came to them. Yep.
Yeah. So right now, this is the only matter I have on the agenda for your next meeting.
Is it-
That's
That's
15.
Mulbert's?
Mr. Mulrad is the applicant.
So is Florida's restriction from connecting, is that going to impact that project?
Florida would not allow a new connection. I don't think Mr. Mulrad ever proposed a new connection to, he has one on the other building, but I don't recall if he, and I haven't looked at this initial
Okay.
procedure. But yes, he wouldn't be allowed to.
Anything from the board? Comments, concerns,
Yeah.
questions? Neil?
Just, there seems to be a lot of confusion as to when there's going to be this gathering out on 17M. If anybody's, and I think that most of us know, but if anybody's watching on the YouTube or whatever, there is that gathering out by the Psych Center this weekend where they have announcements that you should expect heavy traffic.
Right.
But apparently the public is lost on this, and much of the public doesn't know about it or is unaware. So for the public, yes, it's going to happen twice, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Roughly, it's going to end by 12 o'clock, 12:30.
Correct.
amazing nonsense going around town.
What time is it starting in the morning?
Pardon?
Is it the thing there?
6:30 is
The
arrival.
program starts 9:15, I think.
Right, he's to arrive by 6:30.
Yeah, gates open at 6:30.
Yeah, the invite that I'd seen was to arrive at 8 o'clock,
Right.
but be seated by 8 o'clock, I should say. And the program's gonna start at 9:15.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn around and look at some of this.
Anything else? If not, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
Place a motion.
Diana, second by
Second.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?